So we all know income inequality is hurting our working families today. All too often, children from black and brown communities lack the valued resources at home to prepare for college and get a good job. Children of color are now the majority K through 12. Students in the U.S. will now play a major role in our future workforce. In order to fix this inequality, we must address the huge academic achievement gaps that exist between children of color and their white peers. Closing them will be a boom for our economy and all Americans. It will be difficult, but we can do it. Today, we will talk with Larue Fitch, educational consultant, right here from Chicago. Thanks for tuning in to the interview. So we have a very awesome person with us on tonight that's going to be talking about his expertise in education. His name is Larue Fitch. He's an educator from Chicago. He's been in the education department for about 12 years now. He has a bachelor's in science and master of arts in administration. He also is a doctoral student candidate. Is that correct?
Yes.
And we're very excited to have you here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us on the interview. So I just want to dive deep into, what got you into education.
My name is Larue Fitch from Kankakee, Illinois. This is my 12th year in education. I got into education because I wanted to inspire students to go far and beyond, because I was inspired by my former principal. When I was in 6th grade, so I wanted to give back to the community. Spent 4 years at St. Xavier University, where I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science degree. Then I went to Chicago State with my Master's of Arts degree in education, and now I'm at Chicago State again, pursuing my doctoral degree. So I'm excited about that. So with those years of experience, it has equipped me with the skills to go out and coach teachers to build capacity so we can increase student achievement. This is what I live for. This is what keeps me going, and it's my belief that all students, no matter their situation, deserves a high quality education. And if we can take their truest potential, right, and work on how they want to be taught, and adjust our instructional practices, they can reach the highest pinnacle when it comes to, living out their dreams.
Wow, I mean, that's incredible.
Absolutely.
I really congratulate you on your success.
Appreciate
and feeling like, okay, I went through this, but this is what I want. I want to help somebody else get to the next level. I mean, that's very inspiring, and that's what the show is all about here at the interview. We want to inspire you. And just bouncing back from what you said, I mean, how many years did it take for you to actually get your degree and get to where you are today?
I would say it took me 4 rigorous years of learning different, concepts, methods, classes that I experienced, doing my student teaching experience. But I would like to credit a lot of my experience from working with Chicago Public Schools, which has laid the foundation to where I'm at right now. It has equipped me with the skills. Some of the best administrators I worked under and teachers I've collaborated with has put me in a position where I can see things from a different lens. So I give a lot of credit to that. And from there, I've never thought about becoming a principal or some sort of administrator. So I thought about going back to school to do that, right? And it was more of a challenge to me. However, I was able to overcome that and see that, I think the higher being has a lot in store for me, and I have not reached where I'm supposed to be at, and I have a lot of growth to go. So that's why I'm saying to myself, maybe I can try something different. How about become the first in your family with a doctoral degree?
Wow.
So I can become Dr. Fitch one
amazing.
day, right? So it's like, if you look at, the timeline of, having a phenomenal, being raised by a single mother, just my mother by myself, staying with my grandmother, was 9 of us in a 2-bedroom house, and the couch was my comfort, going from that to, experiencing, special ed, being able to matriculate out of that, a former, teen parent, and being able to shatter that stereotype, to go to college, to come out, to go back to school, to graduate with a master's degree, and currently now being, a father of 3 phenomenal boys. Now I'm pursuing a doctoral so I can leave a legacy for them.
Wow.
I think that is something I can say, I'm doing something well, right? And I'm keeping keeping my promise to my grandmother.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that there's a big educational gap in between where we are now today from where you were years ago?
Yeah, I would say.
Without aging us, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say the educational gap, I believe, is twofold the way you look at education. You have equity, right? And you have equality. When I was growing up, we used equality,
Okay.
right? And it was the one-size-fit-all type of mindset where if the kid didn't understand it on grade level, something must be wrong with them, right? And I would say now the equity portion is more looking at the individualized learner, making sure that you focus on the achievement. What strategies can I implement to support that individual student to move him at his or her, level? Allow them to be able to move according to how they want to be able to move. That is the differences, right? We need to make sure that teachers, and this is the way I go about coaching them, is making sure we're giving them the strategies and the tools to be successful to build student, achievement by raising their capacity to saying to listen, education, right? Public education is a cornerstone of democracy.
Absolutely.
Right? And when you think about that, we have to allow our students to take this learning and own it.
I love to talk to you about some of the different things that's been going on, the hot topics. Colin Kaepernick is going to be trying out this weekend. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a great and exciting thing for Mr. Kaepernick and everything that he stood for. That's one of the components that I was able to coach teachers around. When we talk about social justice, police brutality, and what's happening in America. So I definitely stand with Colin Kaepernick. So having the opportunity to be able to try out for a sport that he loves and admires, I think that would inspire us as a diverse country to come together. So I think it's a phenomenal thing, even with the backing and support of Jay-Z being there to advocate for him.
That's questionable right there.
Right. And the political backlash he was receiving, right? But being a mastermind, right? And the genius at what he does, it shows that, just take a day at a time, things are gonna work out. So this is a phenomenal look for Colin Kaepernick, for the community, and I'm appreciative of it.
I've been watching the whole Colin Kaepernick and how he's been working out, and I mean he's staying in shape. He's doing an excellent job. It's almost like he's never left the field. I don't know if you guys have been following what's going on, but it's almost as if he's never left the field. He's been working out consistently. So good luck to you, Colin Kaepernick. We're excited. We hope you get this job. Something else that's going on. We have Whitney Houston's lover that's come out. She's now talking about she was Whitney's lover for the last. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Yeah, you just definitely threw that one on me. Yeah.
Whitney Houston had a lover.
Yeah. So, rest in peace, Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave it right there. Rest in peace.
I totally felt that way when I first heard about it.
Sure,
I was just kind of like, oh, she should have just kind of left that a secret. But she wrote a book. I think her name is Robin.
Yeah. And I think too, not to get into all of that because I respect the family.
Absolutely.
And she was a phenomenal singer. I just think that when people are gone, let's just leave off on that. She left a phenomenal legacy. Just leave it at that.
What do you think about this cold blast we're getting?
The what?
The cold blast. The cold. It's cold. It's freezing in Chicago.
You know what? Midwest area. I have friends down in the Atlanta area. They're like, man, it's 20 degrees outside. They'll shut down the whole school district. This is Chicago. Next week it'll be 50 degrees. You don't know to wear shorts or sweatpants half of the time. But it's definitely winter time, but it's not winter time.
I don't know what to say when they say we're colder here in Chicago than we've been in the Arctic.
Yeah, the Antarctic.
So that's what I was hearing on the news.
Yeah, earlier this year it was about negative 27 on one time. I'm like, that is just too cold, right?
Yeah, I suppose. You guys make sure you're bundling up those babies. Don't let them go outside with no coat and scarf and hat, so bundle those babies up.
Yeah, it's cold. Just warm.
Just very warm. So, we appreciate you guys tuning in to the interview and talking with us tonight with Larue, who's been very informative and giving us a wealth of information on who he is and his contribution to our community, which is so important.
So that's my whole purpose.
Can I share, your friends, they can also join us here at the interview. We
Absolutely.
are on YouTube, so you definitely want to be able to go to YouTube. We're KDUTY5 on YouTube. Subscribe to us so you can kind of get the updates on when our show is going to be coming on the air. We'll be traveling, so we will come to you. We'll come to your town and visit you. We'll come to your school and visit you. If you'd like to have an open forum with the teachers, or an open forum with some other level educators as yourself, and kind of talk about how we can bridge the gap. And Ray, why not have you the host?
And I was thinking about that. This may be something, reach. However, I am going to have a book release event at Chicago State, and I would like you guys to come there.
Absolutely.
To partner up with us
Absolutely.
at Chicago State.
We would love to be there.
Definitely.
We would love to be there. This is what this show is all about. It's about being informative and bringing as many people together in our community so we can get that knowledge out there and help contribute to great things happening in our community. So stay tuned for more episodes of The Interview on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m.
Right.
So what can we do to get our families more involved in education? I'm not saying that my kid have to go to college, but furthering your education in some form, whether it be a trade or what have you. What can we do to help bridge the gap with the families and get them more involved?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a phenomenal question, and that question is always proposed, and making sure we have this homeschool connection going on. I think the most important relation to it is making sure that our families are knowledgeable of not just social issues that are happening within school, but the academic concerns that are happening in schools. In most cases, it seems like we only communicate with our families when it comes to us being reactive if Johnny did something wrong, or we're talking about grades. But what I really would like us to do is have these different after-school programs. Get the local Chamber of Commerce involved, get the local, aldermans involved, build these relationships with churches and things of that nature so they can come into the facility and see the value. Mentoring, how can we become not just an outsider, but become part of the decision-making, process. Those are stakeholders, and our families are the key because they can go out there and advocate about things that are happening in the building. So, like I said, it's the cyclical model, and the cyclical model is two different entities. You have the community and you have the school. And when students come into the school, how do they look when they go into the community? And when the community comes back into the school, it should be a cycle, right? And we should be in one accord with that cycle.
I mean, what if we have kids that really want to further their education, but they're too ashamed, but he's embarrassed, he want to be cool, he want to, or she wants to, be cool and hang out and party and not further her education. What do you say to that woman or that man or that teenager per se? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I think it's, like I said, the steps of building a healthy culture within the school is number one, building relationships, right? And then building a community within the school. And how does that look? I think a lot of problems that we have is there's no connection between the school and the community. So when Johnny leaves the school, how does he look in the community, right? And it starts within the curriculum. I'm not opposed to students if they don't want to go to college, but I would say gain a twos in success so you can learn a skill or trade. So now you introduce them to vocational opportunities within the school, right? Carpentry, engineering, mechanical engineer, whatever you want to do, right? But expose them. One thing that I implemented when I was a principal in an alternative school was a project-based learning, right?
What is that?
Project-based learning.
I've never heard of it.
Right, it's PBL, it's a big thing out there, right? It's project-based learning where you're taking a component, right, or skill or concept according to the state standards, right? And you're allowing students to master it the way they like to master it. So they can create a project, so it's like a science fair.
Oh, wow.
But they create it and own it. And if you allow them to do it, then they'll value it more. And they can say, you know what, even though I don't get the math concept the way you want me to learn it, I'm gonna show you the way I can learn it. And they can display that in multiple ways. So when they own that information, they can take it to the next level. So project-based learning, in most cases, is hands-on materials. It allows our students to go far and beyond, and it works depending on the capacity that you instruct in. It definitely works with our kids.
Do you feel like education is probably not cool in our community?
No, education is cool. It is cool. By virtue of that, I say it's cool because as a former teacher in the Inglewood Gresham Network, I worked, and Inglewood is leading when it comes to violence, right? And I've seen a lot of some of my roughest, toughest kiddos take the different skills and concepts and apply it. They were the top tier students in that district, right? And they came out of the areas where they experienced schools being on lockdowns because of violence that was happening. Some of them were in violent situations, right? So if education can save those kids, right, which are babies, then it can work for all kids. So I think education is cool. It's like how we make it cool, right? And I think it takes us as educators to stop trying to teach the kids the way that we were taught and allow students to learn the way they want to learn, and we can adjust accordingly to say, you know what, I'm gonna sit back and let you lead this, because if I let you lead this, then I can see my paradigm, and hopefully you can help me shatter my paradigm, because the way I'm teaching is old school and I need to change the way I'm teaching. That's the teacher becoming a facilitator and the student becoming the agent of their learning.
Do you feel like integration was, something good for our school, or do you feel like there's like a gap, there's something missing with the integration process? Yeah,
absolutely. There's a gap, and I've been doing a lot of studies with the gap, and it was told to me by third grade, a lot of kids have mentally checked out and have already dropped out of school, right? Because that's considered a benchmark year. So when they get to third grade, they should be able to comprehend. So you give them a comprehension exam and they can't even understand basic foundations of decoding, fluency. So now
but whose fault is that? Is it the educational department fault, or is it the parenting fault, or is it just what is it?
It's all of us. Right, it's all of us together. It's us as educators. It's a school. It's a family. It's a community. Because at the end of the day, this is a child, right? He's an innocent, or she's an innocent child that has a growth mindset. So if something happened within that student, whether it was social emotional concerns or academic concerns that didn't advance them a level till they can matriculate, I think that's a problem, right? So I don't like to blame the child in a sense. I think it's all of us collectively, because we have the power to inspire that child to go far and beyond. So it's all of us.
Okay, so with it being all of us. Okay. So with it being all of us, is there a way that we can maybe get our churches involved, our leaders involved, our who we elect involved? What do you think the local election plays a big part in our school district? Yeah,
I would say absolutely. When you're talking about the local school board, being an advocate for education. Even as an African American administrator, I'll be remiss if I didn't state this. However, when I look at the data from the Illinois State Board of Education, and I look at report cards between black, brown, white, Hispanic, when I look at this information, there's a gap, right? And I'm starting to see a lot of our brown scholars are outperforming our black scholars. I think that's an issue. And if we're not addressing that and saying, okay, even though our students are graduating, but at what cost? Are we graduating illiterate kids? Like, what are we doing here, right? When students are not grasping basic knowledge and information. We give out this achievement.
I'm sorry, you just gave me the chills saying that, because I understand what you're saying. It seems like people are like, what you're saying is that teachers are just passing kids and they're not even ready.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to say teachers are not passing kids. However, there is a framework that they have to abide by, because we have a lot of educators here in Chicago, as well as west suburbs, that are going far and beyond, and they are working relentlessly. However, there is a standard, right? And if in most cases, if a child meets a standard, which is bare minimum, then they can matriculate to the next level. But when you give them achievement level assessment and find out where they're reading at, you're like, wow, even though you're in the 9th grade, you're currently reading at the 3rd, 2nd grade level. I think that's the issue. And until we address that, and I have the solution for that, matter of fact, until we address that and have that courageous conversation, we're never going to advance, right, our students with the way they should be advanced.
So do you think, like with the kids, the teachers just went on strike? They were on strike for almost, 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I believe so.
They were on strike for just an extensive amount of time. Do you think, some instance I feel like that was selfish, and some instance I feel like, okay, well, they're just doing that because they want the classrooms to be better organized and structured so they can teach and teach efficiently. For sure. But what do you feel about what they did, going on strike in Chicago like that?
Yeah, as a former educator out of Chicago and being on strike in 2012, I know from firsthand, those teachers were in the best interest of the kids. They wanted the best resources and support, all of the teachers. And no matter what side of Chicago they live on, they deserve the same equity opportunities as everybody, right? So those teachers were out there advocating for the babies, right? And I can say that forefront. I have a lot of former colleagues and friends that were out there with them, and I know they were out there marching and advocating. We need to do what's best for children, and unfortunately, you do need to come together to take a stance and say, you know what, we need to do what's best for the children. And not only are they advocating for the children, you also have the mayor, which was doing a phenomenal job, as well as the CEO of CPS, which was doing a phenomenal job to make sure that they were all advocating for the baby. So I think it was in both sides, everybody had a stake, and I think they were all in it for the best interest of the kids.
Well, I want to advocate more for the kids.
Yeah.
Tell me some suggestions, being with your degree and your credentials, what can I do to advocate for our kids? Because I feel that it's very important that our kids feel that they can do anything and be anybody they want to be in the world. And as a TV producer and a host of a TV show, what would you suggest I do to kind of incorporate how I feel about our kids?
Yeah, right. I would say first and foremost, we need to have this courageous conversation about race and education.
Oh, wow.
We need to ease into that discomfort.
Okay.
That's number one. We need to start looking at the data and asking these questions. Are we going to continue with the status quo? We need to get our families involved. Our families have to be educated on when it comes to looking at data. Our families are so knowledgeable about A, B, C, D, and F, but we don't know what an F means compared to an A unless we're saying the kid passed or the kid failed.
Yeah.
Let's look into GPA.
Yes.
And I said I have a solution, right? And I learned this from a former district. We need to start implementing competency-based education.
Wow. Okay.
CBE is a way to saying the students are going to move at the rate that they want to move at, and a teacher will be the facilitator. And it doesn't matter, we're not looking at grade levels no more, we're looking at achievement level and skill level, because we're going to give kids the opportunity, like you said, to go to college, expose them to project-based learning, get into social justice, problem-based learning. We have to allow them to move the way that they want to move. That's CBE.
Okay, well, it look like they're wrapping us up right now, so we're going to go on to a break. I mean, we're just really getting into this conversation, so.
My years in education, how about I compile a book, right? A resource guide to help teachers. So the name of the book is Breaking the Education Code.
Okay.
An instructional guide for increasing student achievement. So we focus on culture, curriculum, and instruction, and how does that look so we can increase the numbers within Black and brown scholars.
Wow, where can we get that book at? And when is the book going to be released?
The book is going to be released first week in December.
Okay.
So I'm excited after going through the whole editing process, publishing company. We are finally set to go.
Awesome.
So I'm really excited, and I'm gonna give you a T-shirt so you can wear it on your next next show here to throw in that promotion.
Give me a T-shirt and a mug. How about that?
I'm gonna give you a T-shirt and a signed book. And then you had mentioned what else I'm doing, as far as how you can get in touch with me. I do video lives on Facebook every single Sunday at 7 a.m. You can look me up at Larue, that's Larue Fitch, Fitch. Also, my website is larueandfitch.com. Again, that is larueandfitch.com. You can also search me on YouTube by putting in Larue Fitch, and I have a lot of instructional data conversations, culture support, as well as the ways of building up a curriculum. Tons of videos on YouTube that you can look at. And if you need any support just regarding workshops, professional development, any facilitating support, I am here to service you. Just go ahead and look me up on YouTube, as well as message me through Facebook, and I'll be there to support you.
He's definitely the man to go to if you really want to have a deep conversation about education and bridging that gap. Because I'm telling you guys, I've learned so much information from this guy tonight, I cannot tell you. I'm like, let's keep going.
I'm focused.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Williams. This is my first show that I take on with you guys tonight. Thanks for tuning in to Channel 17. Comcast at 7 p.m. We're here every Tuesday night.
And wherever we go, too much on teaching standard-based education, and we put a lot of emphasis on it. But I really believe wholeheartedly, you may agree to that too, that we have to focus on growth. If the kid didn't meet the SMART goal or they went up a point or two, guess what? They grew. You have to celebrate that. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of our kids, you know, they'll come to Mr. Fitch, I need my wristband. I only got a 212. I was going to be a 216. Once you start off with a 208, I'm like, you grew. And you make them feel, you know, feel good. You encourage them, you know. Like if you keep on the same track that you're at, guess what you're going to do eventually? You're going to be on track. You get what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we will reward the students that actually meet our, what we envision, and the other ones that aren't really growing to the expectation, we'll be like, they're not going to ever get it. But guess what we are creating? And that's why I pulled this out. We're creating a fixed mindset. We need to have that growth mindset, and that's something I had to explain to a lot of our teachers that was part of this process, because I tell them all the time, like, data is evident. The student's going to move at their pace. You have to slow down and let them move at the pace that they want to move at. Because a lot of the problems that we have within a group